Welcome to the Authentic Self Revolution. I'm Carly, your guide on this journey to genuine living and the real wealth of freedom and fulfillment. In a world that just loves to tell us who we should be, we're here to remember who we truly are. We're here for the questioners, the misfits, and anyone who's ever felt there must be more to life than following the script. Together, we'll explore what it means to revolutionize your life by living it on your terms. Each week, we'll peel back the layers of shoulds and musts and dive deep into practical ways to live more authentically. We'll also uncover the beautifully simple truths at the heart of personal growth. If you're listening only and want to see my face, you can head over to my YouTube channel, Owning Authenticity, where you'll find this podcast along with a treasure trove of other content aimed at uncovering who you truly are. Your authentic self is waiting, so let's dive in. In today's episode, this very first flagship episode of this new podcast, The Authentic Self Revolution, we are starting with a practical look at 5 signs your authentic self is calling. These are going to be real, right now, real-time indicators that your authentic self is trying to bust out of the seams of your life. So I would love it if you would take a second, follow this new podcast, like the episode, or comment if you're watching on YouTube, and let us know which one of these signs is standing out to you the most at this point in your authenticity journey. And remember, as we dive into these, that recognizing the signs is the first step. Okay, acting on them and finding the courage and the thoughtfulness and the space for self-reflection to respond in different ways, that may be a conversation for another day. And on this podcasting journey, we are going to dive deep into all kinds of facets that will help you to live as your most authentic self. But as I love to say, awareness is literally 95% of the journey, okay? Like if you can see it, you can change it. If you can feel it, you can heal it. If you can see it, you can choose something different. And that's really all authenticity is, okay? To really deeply demystify the subject matter, authenticity is a choice. It's a really brave choice that at the end of the day, no one in the external world is going to give us permission to make. That's a permission slip that we have to sign for ourselves. And the more we sign it for ourselves, the more we are a walking permission slip out in the world for everyone else that we ever come into contact with to do the same. Not the same as what we're doing, but signing that permission slip for themselves to live as who they were born to be. So when I say authentic self revolution, I mean a revolution. I want to be part of this global shift that's happening where the individual person is becoming empowered to live not as who society tells them they should, but as who they were born to be. And so this first episode of actually pointing out 5 different ways that you can be on the lookout for when your authentic self is calling feels like the perfect place to start. So let's dive in with number 1, and that is the energy shift. I also highly recommend that you grab a piece of paper and pen if you're somewhere where you can be in a space to journal or take some notes. If you're driving or walking or whatever, just make a mental note to come back to it later if there's one that really tugs at you to do a deeper explore. So number 1 is the energy shift, okay? And paying attention to our energy and how we feel. Emotions are energy in motion. So essentially paying attention to how we feel is a really awesome way to get in touch with your authentic self. Okay, feeling numbed out or like you're on autopilot or zombie mode, this is a sign that you're kind of operating from outside the core of your authentic self. So when you come inside the core of your authentic self, you're going to notice that you feel different in different situations, which may seem really basic, but it's this guidance. It's this shift in energy that's going to let you know, like that game we all played when we were kids, hotter, 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 colder, colder, colder. Are you headed towards your authenticity or away from your authenticity? And that's something that only you can know. Okay, there is no recipe book, this podcast included. There is no recipe that's going to tell you do these things and then you'll be in your authenticity. That is an inside job if ever there was an inside job. So when you're aligned with your authentic self, you will most likely feel energized, even if you're inside a situation that may feel daunting or challenging. You will still feel energized at the thought of getting to be engaging with the challenge. All right. So if something is draining you, it makes you feel I don't want to, right? Like if you have a resistance to it of any kind, that is most likely colder, 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 going in the opposite direction of your authentic self. And why are you doing that? Most likely comes back to some type of societal expectations, some kind of conditioning, some kind of cultural norms that we're trying to live up to versus following our genuine interest. Okay, so paying attention to how your energy shifts in different situations is the first sign of feeling how your authentic self may be calling to you. The second one is a gut check. Okay, so this is literally getting down outside of the mind and going into the body, which is a whole nother area of the brain for reasons that we could dive into ad nauseum around the nervous system and the subconscious mind, etc., etc. But for today's conversation and simplicity's sake, we're going to say just listen to your body. Listen to how your body feels, because your body will often know things that your mind doesn't know yet. And that's why you may actually manifest physical symptoms of illness. Like if there's a certain person that every time you have plans to hang out with this person, you get a headache. And it's like, oh, how convenient. I have a headache. I can't go hang out with you. That's your body's way of helping to push you into authenticity, helping to keep you away from the things that aren't necessarily a good fit for you. This is where maybe at some point we'll do a whole episode on toxic. This word is grossly overused in the culture, in my own opinion. But something is not necessarily inherently toxic. Maybe a few things, there's exceptions to every rule, but mostly something is or is not toxic for you. So just because something is toxic for you doesn't necessarily mean that that thing is toxic, but other people's energy can absolutely be toxic to your authentic self. And what does that mean? It means that it's hurting you. It's actually hurting your physical system. It's keeping you from entering into your thriving mode. And so that's where our body, the physical symptoms, gut issues, chest pains, tightness in our neck and shoulders, headaches, these kinds of symptoms can be warnings that we're going colder, colder, colder away from our authentic self. So paying attention to any physical discomfort that you're feeling could absolutely signal that you're going against your authentic desires. And the beautiful thing about this one is that you may not even know what those authentic desires are, but the fact that your body is disagreeing with the situation you're putting yourself in is a really great sign that on some level there's a version of your authentic self that is ready to emerge with a little bit of space for self-reflection, and we'll get into that a little bit more at the end of the video. The third one is the values violation. Okay, so your core values belong to your authentic self. It is the language of your authentic self and who you really are. And for this reason, I highly recommend that you keep a list of your core values. And if you're not already knowing, like off the top of your head, top 3 to 5 values, the things that you find valuable, the elements of life, the elements of your person, your personality, your energy that you think are the most important things. Like if you can't rattle off 3 to 5, like just boom, 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 then perhaps you would benefit from spending 15 to 20 minutes to do a values exercise. And you can Google these. There's tons of them on the internet. I've also made one that you can access on my website. I'll put the link in the description of the episode so that you can be super in touch with what is most important to you. Because when you feel unusually irritated or resentful about a situation, most likely that situation is violating one of your core values, one of your elements of core authenticity. And our values are essentially kind of the building blocks of who our authentic self even is. And so when we are putting ourselves into situations that go against those core values, you better believe our emotions are going to have something to say about it. Kind of going back to that first one of the energy check being a more subtle shift in energy, this one being like, you're pissed. You're pissed and not having it. And why? Because your values are being violated, and that is not necessarily something we can stop from happening, but we can learn to stand up for ourselves. We can learn how to be more cognizant about the boundaries that we set. We can learn to be better about selecting the people, places, activities that we spend our limited energy on, etc., etc. This is all going to be what we dive more deeply into during this podcast, but knowing your values is absolutely step number one. So if that's something that you need to dive down the rabbit hole of values exercises, there's a link in the description to get you started. Number 4 is the curiosity trail. Okay. And I put this one here because a lot of times the recommendation, the advice is about find your passion, follow your passion. That is not bad advice, okay? Nobody's saying that that's a wrong thing to do. And if anything, passion is a great sign that your authentic self is really, really on the surface of your life, okay? And if you are one of those people that's like, I wouldn't even know where to begin with finding my passion, okay? This curiosity trail is how you sniff it out. Okay, think about like an animal tracker that has to follow these little tiny smudged footprints. They're not looking at the animal, they're looking at the trace that the animal left behind and following the traces to eventually find the animal. Passion tracking is a lot like that. And how do we track our passion? We follow the curiosity trail. All right, so our authentic interests will manifest as genuine curiosity. And curiosity can escalate into obsession, can escalate into passion, etc. So these are the places where you repeatedly get drawn to a topic, an activity, a type of person. Even if it's like, I don't know why I'm spending all freaking day or into the wee hours of the morning. I don't know why I'm doing this. This has nothing to do with my job. I can't talk to any of my friends about it, but I can't stop diving down these rabbit holes. That's your authentic self calling you forward. There's an appetite of authenticity that is being quenched and fulfilled by that particular subject. And the thing about authenticity that's really important to note here is that it's really a journey, okay? There's not a destination that we're ultimately trying to reach. So this curiosity trail, the subject that you're genuinely interested in, it may be a means to a different topic, and that topic may be a means to a different topic. And there's stepping stones that, again, take you along the journey, not ever necessarily being like, oh, I made it to my actual topic and this is my authentic self. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more is really the goal when we're talking about living as our authentic self. And so the curiosity trail and letting yourself indulge. I know one of the pieces of social conditioning that can really stand in our way here, as far as like not letting ourselves indulge in that curiosity, is like, what's the point? How is this productive? That's a waste of my time. And that hurts my heart, and we're going to dive real deep into social conditioning as we get into more of these episodes. But for now, suffice it to say that if you are really interested in a topic, please sign the permission slip that says you get to spend time looking into it, and budget that time however you feel like you need to balance your responsibilities. I mean, nobody's saying you need to quit everything and exclusively fall down this rabbit hole, but look into it. If it's calling to you, look into it, because it may have something, even just one little spark that sends you off to this thing, and that has a spark that sends you off to this thing, and the breadcrumb trail of tracking your passion, tracking your authentic self is really what that curiosity trail is about. Number 5, we've made it to the 5th one, the envy indicator. So this is where we're getting a little bit to the dark side of not living in our authentic self fully yet, which is, spoiler alert, always the case. Okay, so when we feel envious of another person, meaning they have something that we want. All right, and I want to take a second here to just delineate jealousy and envy, because those two things are not the same. And are often interchanged, which I totally understand why. They're very similar physical sensations in the body, very uncomfortable emotions to experience. I would say jealousy a little bit more so than envy, and you'll see why when we break it down. Envy means that somebody has something that you also want. Okay, so like I'm watching somebody eating a cookie dough ice cream cone, and I'm like, that looks delicious and I wish I had one. And I'm experiencing low-key envy all the way up to, there's somebody who's starting a podcast, or they're going after their dreams, and like you wish you could do that. And like you're feeling that envy of like, oh, I want to. Why not me? Why did they get to do that? Well, because they signed their freaking permission slip. Okay, like they granted themselves permission and they chased after the thing that they wanted, and you can do that too. All right, and jealousy is different. Jealousy means that I have something and I'm worried that this other person is going to take that thing away from me. I'm worried that they're going to overpower me and they're going to take away the thing that I really value. So you see how different jealousy and envy is. Jealousy is much more fear-based as far as losing something that you value. And envy is more value-based. You want something that you value, but you don't have it yet. So the envy indicator, pay attention to what triggers those feelings of envy, because often what we envy in others is just a desire that we want that for ourselves, but we haven't given ourselves permission to pursue it. And they did. That's the only difference. Okay? And if you feel in this moment about any stories that are coming up, like, well, but I don't have the money, I don't have the education, I don't have the connections, I don't have this, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Those stories. And this is also what we're going to really get into as far as unraveling our limiting beliefs that keep us stuck outside of our authentic self, that keep us from breaking in and cracking the code on how to live as our true self. Those limiting beliefs, all the stories that come up that tell us we can't have it, that's the only thing standing in our way. So the envy indicator, powerful one. And just because we can, we're adding a bonus to the list. And number 6, sign that your authentic self is calling to you, is ready to emerge more fully. And this one is the dread check. Okay. And dread is your best friend. All right. Dread is obviously something none of us want to experience, and yet dread is the authentic self's best friend, because dread lets you know nothing about that situation suits your authentic self. Your authentic self has not even no desire to go there, has negative desire to go there. Dread is pushing you away actively as best it can, pushing you away from a situation that is not a fit, is not aligned with your authentic self. So any of those feelings of dread or heavy resistance, especially about future commitments, like I said, about like if you have, plans with a friend, or you have like your parents are coming over, or it's family Thanksgiving around the corner, or whatever it is. Or if it's an ongoing situation like your job, and every day when you wake up, the first thought in your brain is like, I don't want to freaking go there. I hate this. God, maybe I'll be sick today. Like, I'm speaking from experience, okay? So when that's going on, all right, this is a really, really, really super important one to pay attention to, because when you will create a prolonged exposure in a situation that you dread, you are inviting physical illness into your body, because dread is the energetic indicator that you should not be going there. And if you keep going there, physical illness will put a stop to it. You'll have a headache. You'll have a longer physical illness, like you'll get, a flu for 2 weeks where you can't go to work. And on one level, you're like, I don't want to be sick. I don't want the flu. On a deeper level, your authentic self does not want to go to the thing, doesn't want to go to your job. Bada bing, bada boom, 2-week flu, mission accomplished. Okay, so dread, paying attention to dread and honoring your dread, thanking it for warning you that this situation holds no value for your authentic self, and then doing something about it to eliminate those dreadful circumstances out of your life systematically for no other reason than because you're dreading it. We're now, dipping into another layer of social conditioning where, but why? On paper, this is a great job. On paper, like I'm so successful, blah, 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 blah. Again, like needing to have a logical, culturally acceptable reason to do the thing rather than just my authentic self doesn't want to. And signing the permission slip that that's enough of a reason. So again, we come back a lot to this concept of signing the permission slip. That's going to be a recurring theme through this conversation. And why? Because nobody in the world will give you that signature. It's something you get to put on the paper that says you get to have what suits your authentic self. And like we talked about, these signs are just to build awareness, right? Like, and then what? And then what do you do? Well, that's a great question. I'm so glad you asked. That's where the rest of the episodes are really going to fill in that gap a little bit more, fill in that blank a little bit more, because honoring your authentic self, meaning taking action from that place, can be difficult for a number of reasons. And we're going to dive deeper into all of that as we continue on in this journey. For today, that is where we're going to leave it. Let me recap real quick these 6 signs that your authentic self is ready to emerge. Pay attention to the shifts in your energy, your gut telling you, warning you, having physical symptoms, your values, diving deep into what is most important, what is most valuable to you, paying attention to the curiosity trail of what is calling you, what is interesting you. The envy indicator, what do you see going on in other people's lives that you'd like to personally be living, and how could you write your permission slip to give yourself access to do that? And last but not least, the dread check. Where is there dread in your life, and how can you work to eliminate that? So those are your pieces for today. Again, I would love to hear from you in the comments below, and I'll leave you with an invitation that if any of this has sparked your curiosity and you are ready to dive in deeper into a complimentary authenticity activation session with yours truly, you can check out the link in the description box. Go to owningauthenticity.com/activate and book your call today, where we are going to dive deeper into what you truly want, what your authentic self truly wants. What are those stories, those limiting beliefs that are keeping you stuck, and what are your true gifts, and how can you take another step to be owning those more fully in your right now moment? That is available to you, no strings attached, free of charge. Hop on my calendar, we'll make it happen. Until next time, until the next episode of this Authentic Self Revolution podcast, I do hope that you are building the awareness of your authentic self and how that is trying to come more fully online in yourself. Because again, these small step-by-step changes that we make inside of ourselves to allow our authentic self to come online make a ripple effect through the world that revolutionizes the entire planet. This is our greatest gift. Letting our authentic self come to the table, have a seat at the table, living from the center of who we truly are. This is our greatest gift. It has been my pleasure to be with you on this episode. Until next time, I hope you'll take really good care of who you truly are, and so will I.